Imagine waking up 10,000 years ago, not in a bed, not in a house, not to an alarm clock yelling at you from a glowing rectangle. You open your eyes on animal skins, dirt, smoke, and cold air. The first thing you hear is not traffic. It is insects, birds, wind, people breathing near you, and somewhere far away something large moving through the grass. You do not check the time. There is no time, at least not the kind you know. There is sunrise, there is sunset, there is hunger, there is winter coming. That is the clock. If you were born 10,000 years ago, almost everything you think of as normal would be missing. No cities, no roads, no supermarkets, no police, no doctors, no school, no money, no weekends, no privacy, no one saying, "Have you tried turning it off and on again?" But the strange part is this: you would not feel like you were missing those things because you would not know they could exist. To you, the world would be the whole world, and the world would be alive in a way modern people almost never experience. 10,000 years ago, Earth was not empty. It was crowded, not with buildings, with life. Forests were thicker, rivers were cleaner, the night sky was darker, animals were louder, closer, and much less interested in respecting your personal space. In some places, the Sahara was still green, not endless sand, but grasslands, lakes, fish, crocodiles, hippos, and people moving through a landscape that is now desert. In other places, humans were starting to do something new, something that would eventually change everything. They were planting seeds. This is the weird thing about being born 10,000 years ago. You might be born into one of the last hunter-gatherer worlds, or one of the first farming worlds. Humanity was standing between two lives, 1 foot in the wild, 1 foot in the field. If your group still hunted and gathered, your day would begin with a question. Where is the food? Not in a fridge, not in a cupboard. Out there, somewhere. Berries, roots, nuts, fish, eggs, honey, shellfish, small animals, large animals, if your group was brave, lucky, or desperate. Food was not guaranteed. It had to be found. And the people around you would know the land like a book. Which plants could be eaten? Which ones would make you sick? Which tracks were fresh? Which birds meant water was nearby? Which silence meant something was wrong? A modern person can get lost when their phone dies. A person 10,000 years ago could read broken grass and know what passed through hours earlier. Their memory was not full of passwords. It was full of survival. But if you were born into one of the first farming villages, life would be different. Not easier, just different. Instead of following food, you would stay near it. Fields of early wheat or barley, goats, sheep, dogs, mud brick houses, storage pits, smoke, people. So many people compared to a small wandering band. Farming sounds peaceful until you remember what farming actually is. It is bending over the ground for hours, pulling weeds, carrying water, grinding grain between stones until your hands hurt, watching the sky and hoping the rain arrives, watching the field and hoping insects do not, watching the storage pit and hoping nobody steals from it. For the first time, humans had more food in one place, which meant they also had more to lose. This is where the idea of mine becomes heavier. My field, my grain, my animals, my house, my wall. Before this, a person could own tools, clothes, weapons, ornaments. But land was different, stored food was different. Once food could pile up, power could pile up too. If you were born at the wrong end of that change, you might spend your life working harder than your hunter-gatherer ancestors, and somehow eating a less varied diet. That is one of history's cruel jokes. Farming helped humans grow in number, but it did not instantly make every human happier. Your body would tell the story. Your teeth might be worn down from stone-ground grain. Your back might ache from work that repeated every day. You might live closer to animals, which meant new diseases had more chances to jump into humans. You might live closer to other people, which meant sickness could spread faster. A village was safety. A village was also germs with walls. And yet, you would probably not think of your life as tragic. You would have people. That mattered more than almost anything. 10,000 years ago, being alone was dangerous. A human by themselves was soft, slow, and edible. A group was different. A group had eyes facing every direction. A group could share food. A group could carry a child. A group could remember what happened last winter. Your identity would not be an individual chasing a dream. Your identity would be your people, your family, your band, your village, the living and the dead. You would know stories before you knew facts. Stories about where the animals went. Stories about the river. Stories about the sky. Stories about people who broke rules and what happened to them. Without writing, memory had to live in mouths. Important knowledge became songs, rituals, warnings, jokes, and myths. A bad story could be forgotten. A useful story could survive for generations. At night, the world changed. Today, night is mostly an inconvenience. You flip a switch and it goes away. 10,000 years ago, night was a place. It had edges. The fire made a circle. Inside the circle were faces, warmth, tools, cooked food, smoke, language. Outside the circle was everything else: eyes, sounds, movement. The dark was not empty. It was occupied. Above you, the sky was enormous. No city glow, no headlights, no planes, no satellites. Just stars so bright they looked like something spilled across the universe. The sky was not decoration. It was a map, a calendar, a warning system, a mystery nobody could stop looking at. You might know when certain stars returned. You might know when animals moved. You might know when cold was coming. But you would not know what a star was. Not really. So you would explain it the only way humans could, with story. That is another thing about being born 10,000 years ago. The world would be full of minds. The river wanted, the storm warned, the animal spirit watched. The dead were not completely gone. Maybe this sounds foolish now, but imagine living in a world where everything can kill you, feed you, guide you, or vanish without explanation. Of course, the world felt alive. It was. Your childhood would be short, not because nobody loved children, but because survival does not wait for you to feel ready. You would learn by watching how to carry, how to dig, how to listen, how to stay quiet, how to recognize danger before it becomes visible. You would play, but play would be practice, throwing, tracking, climbing, remembering, copying adults, learning where your body ends and the wild begins. Pain would be normal. Death would be closer. A cut could matter. A bad tooth could matter. A fever could take someone who was fine yesterday. Birth was dangerous. Hunting was dangerous. Winter was dangerous. Water was dangerous if you found the wrong kind. But fear would not be constant panic. It would be background knowledge, like weather, always there, always being read. And then there is the biggest difference. You would not believe history was moving toward anything. You would not think you lived in the ancient past. You would not think humans were primitive versions of something better. You would just be alive, trying to eat, trying not to die, trying to belong, trying to understand why the sky did what it did. And if someone showed you the modern world, you might not see it as obvious progress. You might see magic, then noise, then loneliness, then sickness of a different kind. You might ask why everyone is surrounded by food but still anxious. Why people live in giant villages but do not know their neighbors. Why the night sky is gone. Why the rivers are fenced. Why the animals are missing. Why people sit still all day and call it work. And honestly, you would have a point. Being born 10,000 years ago would not be better. It would be harder, colder, more dangerous, and probably shorter. But it would also be more immediate. Every smell meant something. Every sound mattered. Every person around you mattered. The world was not something you watched through a screen. It touched you constantly. And maybe that is the strange part. Modern life gave us safety, medicine, comfort, and choices our ancestors could not imagine. But it also placed a wall between us and the living planet that made us. 10,000 years ago, you would not have had much, but you would have known exactly where you were, under the same sky, beside the same fire, surrounded by the same dark. At the beginning of the world, we are still living inside.